Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to NerdTube. As well with No Budget Productions here because we have a nice little mixed bag of um, people here with us to talk about the latest episode of Lower Deck, Star Trek Lower Deck Season 2, Episode 9. It's written in Klingon writing, so don't ask me to tell you what it is. Maybe you
West
guys
Dutch.
wish to. There we go. We have a Klingon with us, so unfortunately we will be getting a translation. So first of all, on my right hand side, but on your left, so on my right hand side and or left hand side, depending how you want to look at it, we have Korf, the Klingon ambassador, also known as Steve. How you doing, mate?
Kapla and Kavan. I'm doing
Fantastic.
okay for the most part. I'm surviving. Let's leave it at
And
that.
cousin Cheeto beneath us, how you doing, mate?
Howdy.
And I also want to give a big welcome, a warm welcome to Daniel Vance in the comment section. How you doing, mate, Daniel? You can respond whenever you can. So this is the penultimate episode of Lower Decks, and once again,
Intro.
I'm pleasantly surprised. We got something I didn't expect. It's going to be interesting to see how they finish this season. But we got, I asked a question yesterday to Samuel Cockings on the Pizza Roll Diaries. Well, wouldn't it be nice if we had a Star Trek show based on one of the other races, like the Klingons, or the Romulans, or the Vulcans, and see it from their perspective, following them and their interactions with other alien races, including humans. And then we kind of got that in this episode to a degree. It fractioned out. The wealth was shared, and we've got the lower decks of the Klingons, the lower decks of the Vulcans, a little bit of the Pakled, and also a tiny little bit of the Borg at the end. So this was a very interesting episode. I felt, before we start breaking things down, I did feel that the Klingon lower decks, it was basically based on one character. All of them were both the Klingon and the Vulcan were basically based on one character. The Klingon lower decks character felt very much like Boimler, and the Vulcan lower decks character felt very much like Mariner. But regardless of all of that, it was good to see other characters come into play, expanding the roster of characters we have on lower decks. So first of all, Steve, what did you think of this episode overall before we start breaking it down?
Majka. I really enjoyed it. I really got my Klingon juices flowing. And it was good to see the differences in the different races and how life on board their ships are. And especially, I really like the Klingons. They did them right for a change. I mean, Lower Decks has been getting them right, as I can't say for all other recent Trek productions, but Lower Decks has really been getting right lately. So I was very happy to see that. But also the Vulcans and the Pakleds. We are not stupid. So yeah, it was fun.
Okay, Chia.
I mean, it was a fun episode. It was nice to see. I mean, it was okay with the whole lower decks on the other ships thing, but it was okay. There were some entertaining moments. There were some great moments with the Klingons. But other than that, I mean, honestly, I kind of would have more preferred if they did like they did in TNG, where they did like the officer exchange with Riker, like they did with Riker in TNG. I think it was season 2 or season 1. Like they send like Mariner or Blemler. Well, it'd probably be funnier with Blemler onto, a Klingon ship, and then the Klingon goes on to the Federation ship, or vice versa, whatever. So anyway, I mean, it was okay, but I felt like they could have gone about it a different way. But
Yeah, fair enough. I'm going to go on a little tangent here. One of the things I will give Enterprise, with me, I'm not the biggest fan of Enterprise. It only lasted 4 seasons. It's shit for a reason. But nevertheless, one of the things I'll give Enterprise credit for is it really did establish what Vulcans are like. I know we kind of got a little snippets of it in TOS, but I think more than ever, we kind of really got an idea of the arrogance and the arrogance really of Vulcans thinking they're better than everyone, and that's kind of been spread since Enterprise. and we got to see it in play in this particular episode with the Vulcans. Now, I'm not sure how you guys felt about the Vulcans, but when I was watching them interact with each other, the way they spoke with their monotone voices, it kind of reminded me of Siri a little bit. You know, like you ever watch TikTok videos and you see the automated voice, you hear the automated voices on TikTok videos. That's how the Vulcans were talking. I'm not sure if you guys felt that at all.
Not really.
No,
I didn't think of that until you said it just now.
but you can see where I'm coming from a little
Yeah.
bit.
I can see where you're coming from, but did it make me think that? No, but I see where
Well,
you're coming from.
I picked that up, picked up on that quite soon. But we didn't really get that much from out of all the lower deck characters and out of all the sort of side stories. I think the Klingons were the most prominent because we had this Klingon commander, the Klingon captain, sorry, who was doing very un-Klingon-like things, being very deceiving. But I've seen the Klingons be deceiving before. It's not like this is the first time this has happened. You know, being tactical and and being conniving. I always thought was a Klingon trait personally. It's not just about going there in battle and just I think being like being almost like dishonorable is just as it's just a bunch of Klingon trait is being honorable. You agree, Steve?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So with this Klingon like doing some sort of deceiving thing with the Pakled and doing basically trying to end peace, so to speak, and trying to start some sort of war, were you kind of surprised that this lower decker had an issue with it, or do you believe that there's many ways different Klingons look at how their culture should behave? And some of them are more brash and they want to be just upfront with their fighting, while other people want to be a bit more in the shadows and start a fight for the sake of starting a fight.
Klingons are fiction.
Yeah.
And it's up to the writers as to how they behave.
I know. I know that.
Wait. Even though over the last 40 years, they have really worked to establish Klingon culture. It really is dependent upon the interpretation of the writer. But do I believe that it would be possible that there would be Klingons who would be acting in underhanded manners? Yes, I do. And that lower deckers would challenge them? Yes, I do. So I think it rang true. It just seems to take a little while longer for the protagonist this time around to actually get motivated and act and overthrow the captain than it should have been.
What was the name of Christopher Plummer's character in Star Trek 6?
He was General Chang.
Yeah.
Chang, fair enough. Now, he was a very high-ranking, established Klingon in that movie, and yet he probably did what many Klingons would consider to be some of the most dishonorable shit you could possibly imagine, to start a war with the Federation. I mean, if you want to start a war with the Federation, just fucking shoot first. But he went underhanded and basically tried to frame Kirk and McCoy for killing their leader.
Chancellor Gorkon.
Yes, the same actor from episode 5. But nevertheless, it was good to see these different points of view from different Klingons, and I appreciate that. One of them wants to go underhanded, the other one wants to be a bit more honorable and in your face, and I like the fact that we see their different perspectives. How did you find that, Cousin Chico?
I mean, it was all right. As I said, I mean, it makes perfect sense that it doesn't surprise me that the young Klingon who is idolizing these upper ranking people like the captain, and he looks up to the captain, and then he finds out he's being all deceitful. It's like never meet your heroes type thing. Never become second in command of your heroes, because they'll just let you down. So, yeah, I mean, does it surprise me? No, but I mean, that's how things are done on Klingon ships. I mean, it's a very, I don't know the term. It's a very, it's like you know, you have to kill the leader. You have to kill the leader to take your seat.
That being a Sith, isn't it? A Sith Lord.
Kind of being a Sith, yeah. I mean, that's kind of Sith-like. So, but yeah, I mean, it's all right. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. That was typical Klingon behavior, typical Klingon episode. It was funny when the Targ came and rescued the lower decker rather than the actual captain, because the lower decker is the one that actually took care of him. So,
well, Daniel Vance said, "I'm glad they furthered the story with the Federation Packleads. I feel like the Packleads are the main bad guys in the Lower Decks canon, for sure. I think the fact that they're fucking idiots for a start makes them the right sort of bad guys for the Lower Decks. I just hope we don't get them too much. It was nice. It was actually quite refreshing, considering we're talking Star Trek here, to get Klingons and Vulcans. Because honestly, Lower Decks hasn't been showing too much of that. It's been going in a totally different direction, of course. But it was good to see.
I think you're right. I think the Packleads are the perfect foil for the Cerritos, just because they're not they are, they're not exactly the brightest bunch in the universe. I mean, they're not as dumb as they're portrayed in Lower Decks, but I mean, they're not the brightest bunch in the group, and they, but they're, I feel like for this show's format, they are the perfect main villain for this show.
They've been fleshed out more on Lower Decks than they have been in any other Star Trek.
Oh yeah,
media.
Absolutely. I don't think I think they were only fleshed out a smidge on TNG, and that's about it.
Yeah, a week or two ago when they went to the Packlet homeworld, and everybody was doing the thing with the bigger hat. Who has the biggest hat is in charge.
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And there were certain things I picked up during the course of this episode. Now, I reluctantly never bought myself a Star Trek Discovery shirt, because I don't think people outside of Star Trek will ever understand the term disco being an abbreviation of Discovery. But
with your recent collection of 70s shirts, disco would fit right in.
Yeah, good point. But I wouldn't want it to look a bit disco as well.
Well, but here's the thing. I honestly, before I realized that disco stand for Discovery, I thought they meant disco Trek as in disco era Trek, as in the 60s.
I look at the 70s as disco, and there wasn't much.
Yeah, I know, but still, that's when before I realized that was Discovery, I was I thought that they meant disco Trek as in OG Star Trek.
Yeah, well, what I was trying to get at though was that Captain Freeman, she was wearing a Ritos on her shirt, and I would buy that. I would buy that in a fucking heartbeat if they had that on sale, and hopefully they will soon enough. And by the way, regarding my shirt, I hope you guys like my my Pride lightsaber shirt going on here. I'm very much loving this shirt. First time I'm wearing it, but yes, I did enjoy that. I like the fact that we had all the Lower Deckers teaming up with somebody from the command, and Boimler didn't have anybody. And then he tried to talk to that what's the name of that race, the alien race that talks in rhymes and talks
the Temerian.
The Temerian, and he tried to.
Whoa! Hold on, sorry. Jesus.
Somebody starting their lawnmower. Anyway, I like the fact that Boimler tried to get in with the Temerian, and he ended up insulting him, which was pretty cool. And then he ended up trying to get on with Captain Jack Ransom, who's somebody I'm actually really starting to like, by the way, just to go on Ransom a little bit. At first, when we came across Ransom, he almost came across like a bit of a high school jock, but I'm glad they haven't gone that way with him. I'm really glad, because he's supposed to be a reliable member of the Cerritos crew, Captain Freeman's right-hand man, so to speak. And I sometimes think Shanks is more Captain Freeman's right-hand man, personally, but he is the first officer, and I'm liking how they're using him. He's not an arsehole. He actually isn't an arsehole. And I'm liking how he's fleshed out. He's acknowledged Boimler twice now, which is really good to see during the course of this season. And the touch he did at the end by making Boimler seem like a competent member of staff so that Cadet could ask for help from him was just great. And these things make me really happy. They really do. I really appreciate the bridge crew. They're not assholes. At first, I thought they were going to be assholes, but they're not. Are you kind of happy with the? We've had 2 seasons now of Lower Decks. We got to know the bridge crew just as well as the Lower Decks. I'm surprised sometimes that the bridge crew don't know these particular 4 Lower Decks characters, but they've been involved in so many fucking adventures. You would think they would know them by now. But nevertheless, are you happy with the bridge crew? Are you happy with the portrayal of their characters, Steve?
I am. Of course, they originally painted them with a broad brush and presented them as stereotypes or caricatures, rather, of what a bridge crew would be. But I'm glad they've really gone in and given us depth into each character. That Shanks isn't just ready to fight in battle. He has a heart, and we've seen him cry a few times over things. And as confident as Ransom is, he makes mistakes, and we see him making mistakes and owning up to it. And as confident as Captain Freeman is, we know she makes mistakes as well. And,
yeah, she does.
I mean, it's all the way around. Of course, we haven't really explored the full bridge crew. I know they have the Trill at one of the helm or navigation stations, and I'm not sure who's at the other one on a regular basis. But yeah, it's really interesting. Now last week or 2 weeks ago, when we got to find out about Billups, the engineer, being the prince of his home world, the Renaissance Festival planet, and finding out more about, well, we haven't really delved too much into Dr. Tala.
Yeah,
but she
saw her scratching post.
She's a hoot anyway, as she is. So
yeah, but her and Shanks getting it on, just the thought of it freaks me out. There's some serious bestiality going on there, as far as I'm concerned.
Hey, Doctor Who did it first, so
yeah. Well, unfortunately, I don't watch that bollocks, but nevertheless, I did like regarding Shanks. We got a mention of Bajor. He had this PTSD moment. It's funny the way you shouldn't laugh at PTSD, but the way the writing is done here is just so fucking good that it still made it very funny. And he loses his shit, and you can see Shanks has got a real bonding with Rutherford. Them two doing claying and stuff like that, which is pretty cool as well. Now I want to go on to the Vulcans a bit more, unless you got something to say, Cheetah.
Nope, no, you're good. Go ahead and move on to the Vulcans.
Okay, so we got the Mariner version of the Vulcan, and she's a girl who uses it, who can't help herself. She works on her instinct, and you can see with the Vulcans that they like to just do logic, and they don't go on instinct at all. What do you think of this particular character? I'll start with you, Cheetah.
It was definitely a setup to get a new character on the Cerritos. It kind of makes me wonder if they're expanding our group from 4 to 5, because this is definitely this is a lower decker, but she's a Vulcan. But they said at the end of the episode she was being transferred to a Starfleet vessel, so I'm assuming that she's going to be a lower decker on the Cerritos come either next week or next season, one of the two. But
I'd lay money on it.
But I mean, I think she's fine. I don't have too much of an issue with it.
My concern is that because she's very similar to Mariner, I don't want I don't want her to be like a constant character on the Cerritos, but somebody they can bounce to now and again. Maybe do an episode maybe one or two episodes a season they could do, which is more focused on her. than everybody else within the series. So maybe she can team up with Mariner, and maybe they can end up showing their differences. So people don't compare them to each other all the time, because honestly, she was fucking Mariner of that. And until she gets fleshed out a little bit more, she's going to be compared to Mariner all the fucking time. What do you think of her? Yeah.
A few weeks ago when they had Boimler was on the Titan, and they had the guy that came on as his replacement, and he was kind of sparring with Mariner, and then we haven't really seen him after that. I don't know if they're going to do the same with the Vulcan woman, person, totally PC, or if she's going to pop up from time to time the way that Tamarian does. We'll just have to wait and see. I prefer the latter if it comes to it, but it would be interesting to see how she fits in with the other characters and what kind of dynamic there would be between them. Thing I liked about her was the beret that she had in her hair, which reminded me of Kim Cattrall's character Valerian in
Yep.
Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country.
One of the best Star Trek movies, in my opinion.
Yes, I think it's my favorite personally, but that's me. Everyone has their favorite, and everyone has their least favorite, and everybody's favorite is somebody else's least favorite, and vice versa. But Daniel Vance, I don't think she's a Romulan plant. She didn't feel like a Romulan plant to me.
Likewise.
She felt like someone who was curious about expressing emotions. I thought that some of the Vulcans that we have seen in the show so far are a bit more stilted than they should be. In the monotone and the way they talk. They don't have the subtle nuances that we've seen in the past with T'Pol or Tuvok or what was the guy, the original series with the years?
Spock
Spork or Sprek or something. Anyway.
Very kind of fell for that.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, he's half human, so we give him a break.
Yeah, but I mean, Tuvok and T'Pol, even though they said, or I read that the plan was to say that T'Pol was half Romulan going into the second or fifth season of Enterprise. And I liked Enterprise, but I understand there was so much pressure on the writers, producers coming down from studio. Now they didn't have network, but it was Paramount. Oh, they were on network. That's right, UPN. There was so much pressure coming on them, forcing them to do things this way, that way, that things got all bollocksed up. And it wasn't as agreeable as enjoyable.
You had suicide Vulcan terrorists, logic terrorists. I mean, you know how I was rolling my eyes up to that shit.
I know.
Like it was the most stupidest thing I've ever seen. Yet people give that show so much credibility. I mean, I'm happy that it's got its place in lore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy about that now. Since little tie-ins here and there. It was nice to hear Admiral Archer's dog mentioned in the Kelvin film, and all of that shit, and seeing that name mentioned in Discovery and stuff like that. But other than that, the series itself, it was a clusterfuck as far as I was concerned. I thought they brought in the Borg as well. What the fuck were they thinking? Running out of ideas.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a plan behind the Borg, but I mean, I just recently learned that they actually had a plan for the Borg, and how Enterprise was technically because Enterprise is supposed to technically be a part of the First Contact timeline, because there's three main timelines. There's the Prime timeline, the Kelvin timeline, and then the First Contact timeline. What happened is when in the First Contact timeline is when Picard went back and did they did all that stuff there. It started the First Contact timeline. So that's one of the theories I've heard on the 3 Star Trek timelines. There's not just 2. Now you can argue till you're blue in the face. It's all headcanon anyway, so it doesn't matter. But
Yeah,
I look at it as a sorry, go on.
I'm sorry to have steered us into this direction, but I don't think it was a perfect show by any means. It's on my list.
it's not my favorite, but it's
on my list of favorite to least favorite. It's near the bottom.
oh, well, I don't know if I do
Mine
that
too.
And it's not the dead bottom. I mean, there are a couple of others below it that I won't mention right now, but it had potential. It had so much that going for it that should have worked that just didn't. And like I said, the pressure coming down, they got everything boxed up and pushed in directions that. And then I saw an interview with Brandon Braga, producer, who said, "Okay, yes, there were problems, including the temporal Cold War and the war with the Zindi and this, that, and the other." It's like, yeah, why do you shouldn't have thrown the Borg in, shouldn't have thrown the Ferengi in. I taking full credit for screwing it up. But everything that I've read about what they're planning to do with the 5th season really makes me salivate and wish it would have come about. Because, like I say, having Shran as a regular cast member on the show, having Guinan show up, having the Gazenti show up, and finding out that T'Pol is half Romulan, bring it on! That all of that and more. Yeah, I wish that we could have seen. But as far as Lower Decks goes, I don't know. I'm sorry I steered us into another direction. There was a tangent. I apologize.
No, that's totally fine. So I'm trying to think of where we are in this episode because it was a real, amalgamation of so many different things. We got even the Lower Decks of the Pakled as well, which
that was dumb. Lower Decks of the Pakled and then the Borg at the end was just like, come on.
I didn't mind the Borg at the end, but the Pakled one was dumb because we had no time to be with them.
Yeah, well, it just figured like the joke, like it was a bad joke in my opinion. The Lower Decks of the Borg, like really, like we know exactly what the Lower Decks of the Borg look like. They look like that. Like there's no question.
Yeah, fair enough. And when it comes to like in Star Trek, when we have those episodes where people are taking time off and stuff like that, it is always like, a lot of it's one of those self-reflection episodes, isn't it? Like it's like as you guys in America would say, it's like Thanksgiving meal and people are sitting around the table and then there's arguments starting and shit like that.
Filler.
Well, I think I look at what people could say filler. I look at character development.
Oh no, filler has a time and a place in any form of media. I'm a Dragon Ball Z fan, and trust me, I know what filler looks like. So
yeah, me too. I remember watching Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, and I mean, we got an episode where they're fighting galactic people trying to destroy the universe, but then the next episode they're like getting their driver's license. So I know what filler looks like, but it's just like, it has a good place, and I mean, this was a good filler episode. Like if it was filler. But like this is the penultimate episode. Like, do we want filler in the penultimate episode, or do we feel like they were actually setting something up in this episode?
I think they were setting something up in this episode.
I'm not so sure, but I mean, I hope I'm wrong.
Well, they set stuff up. They set what they set up was, the 2 new characters, the Klingon guy who ended up being captain of that ship, who I'm sure we'll see again, and the Vulcan lady who likes to sink on her feet. And working with her instincts, and that's what we got out of this.
Yeah. Like I say, towards the end of last season, the Pakleds came in, and suddenly we had a villain. And then we revisited with the Pakleds a number of times throughout this season. And so now having a bit more to that to that ongoing plot, and finding out that there were Klingons. Whether or not they were sanctioned by the High Council, there were Klingons involved in getting the Pakleds the weaponry that made them the big baddies. That's something interesting that they're probably going to follow up on. And of course, yes, the Vulcan most likely coming on board will be followed up on. And the Pakleds themselves will be followed up on to some degree. So yeah, I think it was more than just filler. I think it was definitely an attempt to set stuff up for what's going to happen coming up next season.
Yeah, I was on the fence about it the whole episode. I'm like, is this filler? Is it not? Like, and at the end, I was still on the fence about it.
I think. I mean, I'm just making a guess here. But I feel like the young Klingon who ended up becoming captain after killing his captain. I think we're
next
good.
week.
I think he's going to come back next week to try and take
Yeah.
out the Cerritos. And maybe they end up becoming friends in the end, which would be funny if that's the case. I don't know how that could happen, but stranger things have happened. And I'm sure the Vulcan lady as well will play her part too. And I think her and Mariner are going to come to. They're going to come to loggerheads for sure. You know, if she ends up on the Cerritos, I'm not even sure if I wanted to be on the Cerritos. I wouldn't mind her being on the Titan. That would be a good place for her.
Mentioning the Titan again, just on a tangent. It was established in Nemesis and a screenshot on a monitor that the first officer on board the Titan was going to be someone called Tuvok, and that the chief engineer was going to be someone named Crusher. But I would love to see that followed up in the series, but I don't know if we will.
A relative of Tuvok from Voyager?
Tuvok from Voyager, and
he was going to be it. Okay.
And Wesley Crusher is going to be the chief engineer.
Yeah.
But as far as like I say, I don't know. I don't think we'll have too much trouble with the Romulan, or excuse me, Vulcan. I'm looking at the word Romulan. I shouldn't do that. I don't think we'll have too much trouble with the Vulcan fitting in with the bridge crew per se. I don't think she's going to come to loggerheads with Freeman or Ransom or anyone on of the officers. But with the lower deckers, it's going to be interesting to see how she's going to, in my opinion, get along with them and interact with them. I really don't think the captain's going to come back. The Klingon is going to come back as any sort of antagonist, but more as a ally. And I would really like to see the return of General Corrin, who was the Klingon in last season's second episode, Envoys, come back as the ambassador. I don't know. I heard that with Picard, when they were putting that together, they went so far as to contact the people in charge of Star Trek Online to see what the storylines were in there, to try to steer Picard in that direction. And I don't know if they're going to do the same with Lower Decks or not, but it wouldn't surprise me if they are. And in Star Trek Online, there is a Klingon Federation war again that takes place after the Romulan star blew up. And there were tensions before that. So maybe we're going to see some of that come up in Lower Decks. But I don't think that captain will come back as an antagonist at all.
Yeah, it's a shame, actually. They didn't go with one of your suggestions, because I personally would have loved the series based on the Titan with Will Riker as captain. And then, maybe Tuvok as first officer and Wesley Crusher as engineer. I like the sound of that. That's almost like another next generation, so to speak. And it's a shame
It could have been like the Frasier to Cheers, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess.
I really feel like they could have done it, like if they would have capitalized on it back, like as live action, if they would have capitalized on it back, when Trek was on TV. I feel like that would have really catapulted.
Yeah, because for me, like, and I mentioned this earlier, one of my issues with Star Trek is that they all share the same fucking universe. and yet we don't get as much crossover as we should do, in my opinion. And the only real crossover of any genuine integrity we got is on Picard, a show that I dislike, with Picard and Seven. And even then, after watching the show, I realized that Seven was hardly in any of the fucking episodes. But yeah, we needed more of that. Like, these guys all share this fucking universe. You know, having a show where you got one guy from Voyager and Steve Walken, and you got the TNG guy in Riker and Crusher, you know, sharing the screen on a new series. That's ideal. That is absolutely ideal. I can't believe they never went with that. I'm really upset.
They had a whole line of books with that premise set up. There is a video I found on YouTube. It was some stage show that they had done. Okay, so there was a traveling Star Trek exhibition that was going to go to different museums, science museums around the country, like 10 years ago. And the first one was supposed to be here in Kansas City. But then something went wrong and there was a dispute and money. So it was canceled. And they got new financial backing and went to St. Louis instead, the bastards. But the point is that part of that show was a bit where you watch a film of Crusher and Tuvok on the Titan dealing with some warp core breach sort of thing. And young Wesley learns a big lesson. And that's available at YouTube, and it's pretty cool to watch. But like I say, books, Star Trek books, do their own thing. But yeah, there's a wonderful series of Titan books out there, among many others that I enjoy. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, sorry, just going back to the crossover, I think the only other crossover I can think of is when Worf joined DS9, but that doesn't feel the same for some reason. You know, like I don't know why.
There was more subtle crossover here and there.
Yeah,
such as secondary guest star characters popping up on more than one series.
Riker being one of them. Like he kept popping up on everything.
Q,
Q, for sure.
Admiral Nechayev and Gull.
Even Spock, Spock popped up on
Spock was on Next Gen, yeah. And
so was McCoy, and so was Scotty.
Yep.
Yeah, but
and Sulu showed up in Voyager.
Yeah, he did.
They thankfully, Lower Decks is mining the past and showing us different characters, different alien races that we had seen before that we haven't seen since. We saw Denobulans on there. We've seen a lot of species that had been on the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the Mugatos in the original series. Of course, Bajorans and Cardassians and Pakleds. So they're at least doing that to say, yes, we're still in the same universe. But, Tom Paris has shown up on Voyager, on Lower Decks, Crush, Riker, and Q. Hopefully we will see more. I agree.
Yeah, I'm striving for that. I want to see way more crossover. So regarding this episode, the Klingon Lower Decker ends up killing his captain, takes over. He, with an assist from his dog, it's called a Tusk?
A Targ.
Targ, that's it, Targ.
Yes, I have one. I have one myself. I named her Arno.
Oh, lovely. But yeah, that Targ, I appreciated that young Klingon, which is probably why he saved him. And and then he ends up being captain, and then he decides, you know what, fuck working with the Pakled, I'm getting the fuck out of here. No honor in this, and that was good to see. The Vulcan ship was absolutely massive. It kind of reminded me of some of the ships I saw in the prequel eras of the Star Wars movies. I'm not sure if you know what I mean. No?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
And and then that was pretty much the episode. Boimler getting a rub from Ransom was pretty nice. See the Borg at the end doing their Lower Decks thing, and I watched that whole credit sequence to see if they blinked or anything. nothing. They were just motionless, and I loved every fucking minute of it. But that was the episode, and now we're on to the finale.
Yeah.
Any ideas on the? I've already given you my ideas. I think the young Klingon captain's going to come back for some payback, and we're going to have a battle between the Cerritos and that Klingon warbird. That's what I think is going to happen. What do you guys think is going to happen?
I just want to say real quick about the Klingons. I really like the way they were presented here. And I really like I say, in the first season, episode 2, the Envoys, it was called, General Corrin, when he fought with Mariner, and he had red blood, but here the Klingons have the purple blood that we saw in Star Trek 6.
Yep.
Bless their hearts. And looking at the one of the thingies that Daniel Vance posted about how everyone showed up at the Red Alert in off-time outfits was great. Yes, it was. And seeing the callback to Star Trek 5, where they're climbing El Capitan in the holodeck, and Boimler has the climb a rock shirt with the Vulcan with
yes.
the boots. I really like that stuff. But
Even a shit film like Star Trek 5 gets pulled back, I appreciate that.
As for what's going to happen next week and how it's going to be set up, I don't think the Klingon captain is going to come back as an antagonist. I think he's going to be more of an ally.
Do you think he's coming back?
Yeah, I think he's going to go to Kronos, talk to the High Council, and tell Martok what's been happening with the weapons and the Pakleds and the Federation. And Martok is going to want to do something like declare war on the Pakleds. And we can see that. I would expect.
I really want an episode with no Pakled of the finale. I think they had their moment last season.
Yeah,
it would be nice to have a Pakled less finale episode this season. Personally,
and I think we will see the Vulcan whose name T'Lyn.
Mm-hmm.
I think we will see her on the Cerritos. I don't know. I think there will be some tension. She'll probably spark up a romance with
Rutherford?
No, Boimler.
Boimler, huh? Interesting.
What?
I wouldn't be surprised if they had the Vulcan T'Lyn.
Vulcan women are hot as well, by the way. So
just throw some tension in between him and Mariner. But I may be way off base. But if I
I can see that.
I would do.
I mean, like, if they're going for the route, but I don't want them, like, with her and the Vulcan, or with him and the Vulcan, maybe. I don't want any of our core 4 to, like, get together. Like, I don't want that. I mean, they can get in relationships, but I don't want them to be. I feel like I'm not feeling any combination of those core 4 in there. Now, like, let's say if Mariner gets into a relationship with Ransom, okay, that's fine. Like,
I want that to happen, by the way. I want not the relationship. I definitely want them to bang.
Yeah, I think that might be like a post-credit scene or like an end of the season for this season. But but like, yeah, I guess the Vulcan officer and maybe Blemler, because I feel like they would get along really well. Yeah. So I can see where you're going with that.
No, but I also think the fact that if you have, say, Ransom and he bangs Mariner, and then Freeman finds out about it.
Oh yeah,
it's like, okay, well, my first officer is banging my daughter. This is awkward. This makes things a bit unusual. Like, it would definitely make a very interesting episode.
Be like, Ransom's like, Captain, should we fire torpedoes? And then she's like, did you fire torpedoes into my daughter?
Yeah.
So things like that would be pretty cool. I'm not sure about Rutherford and Tendi. I thought maybe there was something going on there.
I hope, like, I know that they might. They're doing the will they won't they stage right now, but I don't want it. I really don't.
Right.
Yeah, but plus Rutherford's into that Trill girl.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't know. I don't think he really is. Like,
He was,
I don't even think he
But-
was. He was more interested in the safety protocols on the turbo lifts.
That's
Yeah.
because he's got like all these electronics in his brain, not making him think straight like a regular person.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
just-
or Zam may have a point because Zam, you said about the Vulcan in Rutherford. He does remember that cybernetic implant on him was it's like a Vulcan design or something like that. I know they mentioned that in last season for sure. So
And
I
it-
don't know if when they replaced it that was like for humans, but maybe like that Vulcan part, like that Vulcan cybernetic part of him will come into play, and then maybe they will get into a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the funny thing is with relationships, though, this is why I want them maybe just to do some banging, some shagging.
Well, as I
Because,
said,
like-
I don't mind that. I just don't want the core four and any cross between the core four. I want them and outward.
Yeah,
Right. But I think they've been building tension between them. Will they? Won't they? Between Boimler and Mariner, and between Tendi and Rutherford. But
Yeah, I hate that.
I don't want to see payoff of I'd rather they just be friends than lovers.
Yeah.
That
I'm
would be
also-
I
a
mean,
complicated
if I
thing.
had to pick one that they had to do, like if they had to do one pair, I would say Rutherford and Tindy, only because I really don't want Blumler and Mariner together. I really don't want that. Like that's even worse. But I mean, I don't want any of those core four to cohabitate within one another, literally.
it just makes it awkward for the writing as well. Like they're being couples and stuff like
It's
that.
honestly, it's lazy writing. It's way to generate tension.
Yeah.
But like to me, that's lazy writing. Like, like if you can't figure out something for these core four to do, then change up the formula and not just have them sleep with one another.
Yeah, there've been a 1,001 TV series where over the decades where they have the tension, will they, won't they? And then when they do hook up, everything goes to pot, and the show is completely changed in a bad way after that.
Yeah, their hookup should be based on. I do mean just hookups. I mean, not to say relationships, but their hookup should be based on supporting characters who come in for an episode or two and stuff like that. Like the Trill Girl for Rutherford, who I do hope he ends up with at some particular point. But I mean, you saw what happened in TNG with Troy. 1 minute she's with Riker, then she's with fucking Worf, and then she's back with Riker again.
They had an
was-
open relationship. They were both free to, do whatever with whomever they chose. They're very mature about that.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Also, I kind of hope I hope maybe not next episode, but very soon. I hope for a rank up because I'm still really mad that they demoted Blumler. Like I understand why they sent him back to the Cerritos, but I'm still really pissed that they demoted him. It made no sense that they demoted him back to ensign. So it would maybe be fun if like Blumler got back to lieutenant and like Rutherford got to lieutenant, like lieutenant junior grade maybe. And then
But then they
maybe
wouldn't be
Mariner-
lower decks though, will they?
Well,
I
but then
guess-
you still have
yeah.
Mariner and Tindy, because Tindy was brand new in episode 1, season 1, so she's the baby of the group, and I mean Mariner wants to be an ensign, so you could leave them with the lower decks. You could have Rutherford and Blumler still doing lower deck stuff, but I mean they're lieutenant junior grade. They can make a big deal like, oh, we're lieutenant junior grade. What's our assignments look like? And it's like the exact same stuff that they were doing as lower decks.
Yeah, I read that they are planning on giving them all promotions going into the next season.
Oh, well, that's good.
Hopefully,
I mean, I get it
it's
for
not just a
comedy
rumor.
value,
Hopefully,
but
it's
it's
true.
just like I want to see progression.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. And we always get progressions in Star Trek.
No, we
So-
don't. Ask Harry Kim.
Yeah, the forever.
I think
ensign.
no. This Harry Kim thing needs to stop. It's just a load of bollocks. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was very difficult for you to promote somebody when you're in the fucking Delta Quadrant. They just all had to band together and get back home, and then
Then
they
why
can
do they
start
have
thinking
ranks at
about
all?
ranks. Sorry.
Why do they have ranks at all? And second off, he was a bridge crew. He was
I just think people make more of an issue of that than they should.
No,
You know what I mean?
because here's the thing. He was a not what's the word? He was a department lead. How are you an ensign and a department lead?
The point
He
is
should have
they-
been a lieutenant
they-
commander from the get go.
They
I'm
brought
sorry.
no. It would have been this could be an issue if they never brought it up. Considering Harry Kim brought it up, it's not a fucking issue anymore. So I wish people would shut the fuck up on it. Personally,
Nope,
you know what I
never
mean?
will.
With Harry Kim brought it
You're
up.
just
himself.
mad because Voyager makes no sense.
He was just
What-
mad that fucking Enterprise only lasted 4 seasons.
Yeah, well, I'm
Voyager-
surprised Voyager lasted 7. So what the
It's
fuck
the
out
best show.
Okay. You guys have history on this, I can tell.
Oh yeah, he likes Voyager, and I do
Voyager's
not like.
awesome. Voyager
Voyager's not awesome.
Voyager,
Listen,
or some of the best episodes in Star Trek have
oh
come
my
from Voyager.
god, no.
I will say
let's
this.
get back to the review. That
I will say this. As I read, it said that Voyager didn't get good until the fourth
Okay.
season, or rather, Voyager didn't get good until the writers from DS9 took over. That's my hail, and I'll die on it. Harry Kim, they could have given him a battlefield commission, which would have been good while they're in the Delta Quadrant, and then questionable when they return whether they're going to approve it as definite or not. It could have happened. It didn't. In Star Trek Online, he's the captain, but that's Star Trek Online.
Was he still was on the final episode when we saw future Harry Kim? Was he a captain or was he an ensign then?
I don't remember.
probably
Because if he wasn't, then he got his promotion over after all.
in
And
a
then
different
people-
timeline.
In a different, he still got a
In a different
promotion.
It's been
Yeah.
years since I saw that.
Regardless, and like I said, it was brought up. He mentioned it himself, but at that particular time, they just needed people to get together because having a promotion in the part of the universe where you're not going to come home and you can't even experience that with your loved ones. It's just
But it also gives you
pointless.
a feeling of self-worth that you're moving up in the ranks.
Right.
I agree, and he captained the ship. He did the night shift. He was given in one particular episode. He had to captain a particular ship. By mentioning the fact that he said he should have been a lieutenant commander by now. I think his worth was acknowledged, but it was just no time for promotions.
No, Zam, you're missing the point with these things. It's not about how your family feels about you when you get home. It's about how the other crew members that you're serving with feel about you. If for 5-7 years you're stuck at ensign when you're doing all
And on
this
top
stuff,
of that, you're a department.
No, you guys are wrong.
that
because
says
no,
to
you-
your
no,
crewmates that you're
you
not-
guys are wrong because they can't all be promoted. You can't, they needed particular people at different ranks, regardless.
yeah,
Because then you can change ships and stuff and have it, continue with your career. But they couldn't do that in the Delta Quadrant, so I totally disagree.
you're wrong.
Yeah, no.
No, I disagree. There's a difference.
Okay.
But because if you want to, you can't rank up and then have no ensigns. You still need people of a different rank
Why not?
because you still need people to do other things as well, which were meant for ensigns.
But here's my point about Harry Kim is that he was a department head. How many ensigns did you see as department heads on the Enterprise D?
I'm sure there were all lots of capable ensigns there, but we only ever focused on Harry Kim
You
because
missed my point of my
the
question.
sh-
Listen. How many department heads were there on? How many department heads were ensign
department
in Enterprise
heads.
D? None. They were all lieutenant commander or higher, or even lieutenant and higher. I'm pretty
The
sure.
show only ever focused on certain characters anyway. We never got to know other people too much, but if we did, they ended up dying anyway, like Lieutenant Gary. So
There are plenty of non-coms in service who will not take a promotion. O'Brien remained
was a
as
crewman.
chief for an
Yeah.
awful long time because
What the
he
hell
did
is a
not
chief?
want to be.
a
Chief
chief.
Petty Officer. It is the highest rank that you can achieve and not be an officer.
He was the only chief I knew.
So he's a specialist.
No, there was
basically.
a chief on the original series as well. Chief, I think I don't remember if it was Kyle or Leslie was a chief on the original series.
Yeah, but it's more like a
Exactly.
specialty rather than an officer.
And no, it is a rank, Chief Petty Officer. It is the and Worf's father was a non-commissioned. He was a chief as well. He's adopted Sergei Rozhenko. And I have all the specs for the ship and diagrams over here.
Fair enough. Once again, it's fiction, as you said previously, so it's bollocks. But regardless, I think it's about time we end this bollocks.
Okay.
So we've spoken enough about this, and we've gone on some serious tangents. But next week is the finale, and then how long are we going to have a break for before we get Prodigy? Do you guys know?
Beg pardon?
How long will the break be after next week until we get
I think
Prodigy?
it's about 3 weeks until Discovery starts.
Oh, Discovery. I thought it would be Prodigy
No,
first.
I'm sorry, Prodigy. You're right. Discovery's in November, so there'll be 2 shows running, depending on how many episodes Prodigy has.
Do you know roughly
Yes,
how
it'll be the first time that we have had concurrent Star Trek shows since 1999, I believe. It'll be the first time we've had 2 Star Trek shows running in the same time.
We're talking DS9 and Voyager, yeah?
DS9 and Voyager, yes.
Wow.
The last episode of Deep Space Nine was in 1999, and the end of Voyager season 5, I think 5 or 6 was when after Deep Space Nine ended. So yeah, that'll be the last time 2 concurrent shows were running.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay.
And if they needed ensigns, they had all those people from the Equinox on board that could have been demoted.
Okay, you make a good point there. Fair enough.
I'm sorry. I give it up.
Okay. All right. So we are done here. So next week is the final episode of Lower Decks. I look forward to talking to you guys on that. Anything more to say before we wrap this up, boys? Start with you, Steve.
Any episode of the Klingons is a good episode.
I agree. Yeah, I love Klingons. I'm not so sure if I love them that much in Discovery, season 1, but other than that, I like Klingons. But that's not to do with me disliking Klingons. It's just how they were portrayed and written, which was a disservice to the Klingons, as well as the timeline as well. Gio?
Justice for Kim.
He got his justice. I guarantee you he's not. If we caught up with him at some particular point, if in Discovery, if they look back at the archives in season 4, I guarantee you he became fucking admiral or some shit like that.
Oh, probably. But yeah. I mean, but at the rate that he was going, he probably made admiral at the age of like 180.
Fair enough. Okay. So, all right then, guys. Well, thank you very much for watching. And we'll be back tomorrow talking Dark Side of the Ring. Are you into that at all, Steve?
That's a Tolkien Lord of the Rings thing?
No, it's to do with wrestling, but don't get me wrong. Myself and Cheeto, we were avid, I do mean avid wrestling fans. We love that shit, but we don't watch it anymore. But Dark Side of the Ring, we do make time for that if we get an opportunity, because it's about the real stuff that's happened, some of the most unimaginable stuff that's happened in wrestling, and it's a documentary. And when you're talking about something which is fake, I hate using that word sometimes, but when it comes to the real stuff on fake sport, it's way more fascinating.
All I know about wrestling is that there used to be a wrestler back in the day, 70s, I think, named Ox Baker, who was from just in Sedalia, Missouri, just about an hour east of where I am now, and I look just like him.
Yes, the guy from Escape from New York who had a nail bat in the back of his head. Yes, you do look just like him.
We may be related. I don't know, but possible.
Fantastic. Well, keep an eye out for that. You'll be seeing some other members of NerdTube talking about the latest episode, and I hope you guys catch us for that. And then we will be doing Titans as well. So thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to No Budget Productions as well as NerdTube. We are the greatest YouTube channel you never fucking heard of. I'll see you cunts later. Live long and prosper, motherfuckers.